I'm 29, and I think the thing that scares me most is not that my marriage is falling apart. It's that my husband seems relieved by the space between us. Not sad, not worried, not trying to close it. Relieved. My husband's name is Ethan. He's 31. We've been together for 8 years and married for 6. For most of our relationship, I thought we were good at making weird schedules work. I work a regular office job, mostly from home 2 days a week. He works in hospitality management, so his days off are usually Tuesday and Wednesday. When I got permission to work remotely, we agreed I would use my work from home days on his days off. It wasn't perfect. I was still working. He was still doing errands and going to the gym, but it gave us little moments. Coffee together, lunch at the kitchen counter, a 10-minute conversation between meetings, a walk around the block if my afternoon was quiet. It made our marriage feel like something we were still choosing. I also run a small handmade candle business on the side. It started as a hobby, but it now brings in enough money that it actually helps with bills. I do markets on some weekends, usually once or twice a month. Ethan helps sometimes, especially if it's a bigger event, and we used to treat those weekends like mini trips. We'd drive out together, set up the stall, eat terrible food from a vendor truck, laugh about how tired we were afterward. It was work, but it still felt like us. That changed this year. A close friend of ours passed away in January. He used to host our weekly game nights. Every Sunday evening, a group of us would meet, eat snacks, argue over dice, and spend 6 hours being idiots together. After he died, the group fell apart quietly. No big fight. No dramatic ending. Just empty Sundays. That was one of the only things that consistently gave Ethan and me time together outside chores, bills, and schedules. When it disappeared, I felt the gap immediately. I don't think he did. A few months later, Ethan told me his days off might change. His coworker was going away for a while, and his manager wanted to move him to Saturday and Sunday. At first, I thought it would be temporary. I said, if it becomes permanent, I can try to switch my work from home days. He looked uncomfortable. Then he said, actually, I'd rather you didn't. I thought he meant because it would be a hassle. He said, I kind of want those days to myself. I didn't react well. Not yelling, not accusing, just quiet. Because I understood the words. Everyone needs alone time. I need alone time. He deserves time where nobody needs him. But this wasn't one afternoon. This was our only real chance to share life during the week. If I moved my work from home days back to Monday and Friday, that would help my business a lot. But those slots at work had already been taken by coworkers because I had built my schedule around him. So now I was stuck with inconvenient work days for the sake of time he no longer wanted. I said, so you want your new weekends completely alone and I keep my schedule the way it is? He said, you're making it sound selfish. I said, I'm asking if that's what you mean. He said, I just don't want to feel watched on my days off. That hit me harder than I expected. Watched. I wasn't asking him to entertain me. I was literally working. Sometimes I didn't even leave my office for hours. But apparently just being home made him feel trapped. After that, I stopped trying so hard. I didn't mean it as punishment. I was just tired of begging for scraps of time from someone who wanted less of me. On his days off, I stayed in my office. I stopped making lunch for both of us unless he asked. I stopped suggesting little walks. I stopped waiting for him to come home from the gym before eating dinner. And on weekends, when I didn't have a market, I started doing my own things. Coffee with my sister, a pottery class, long drives to thrift stores, sometimes just sitting in my car listening to music before going home. For the first time in a while, I stopped arranging my whole life around the possibility that he might want to spend 2 hours with me. That should have been healthy. Instead, it made him suspicious. It started with small comments. You're dressed up. Since when do you go out this much? You're always on your phone now. I told him the truth. I was texting market customers. I was coordinating with my sister. I was trying to make plans because sitting around waiting for him made me feel pathetic. He didn't like that word. Pathetic. He said, so now I make you feel pathetic? I said, no. Waiting for someone who keeps choosing not to spend time with me makes me feel pathetic. He walked out of the room. 2 weeks ago, everything blew up over a trash bag. I had been packing orders in the spare room. Candles, tissue paper, ribbon, labels, all of it. A customer had requested several small gift bundles, and I had used little clear protective sleeves for some delicate wax melts so they wouldn't scuff. When I was done, I threw the torn wrappers and bits of packaging into the bathroom bin because it was closest. Later that night, Ethan came out holding one of the clear sleeves like it was evidence in a crime show. He said, "What is this?" I honestly didn't understand what he was asking. I said, "Packaging." He said, "Don't lie to me." I laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He said it looked like a condom wrapper. It did not. Not really. But it was clear and torn open, and apparently that was enough. I explained what it was. I showed him the box of packaging. I showed him the wax melts. I showed him the order sheet. He kept shaking his head. He said, "You expect me to believe that?" I said, "You can literally see the same sleeves in the supply drawer." He said, "You've been acting different for weeks." I said, "Because you asked for space and then got angry when I used mine." That was the moment the argument changed. It stopped being about the wrapper. It became about him needing a reason why I wasn't waiting around anymore. He said, "You don't even care about us lately." I said, "I cared so much I rearranged my work schedule for years." He said, "That was your choice." I said, "No, that was our agreement." He said, "Well, people change." I said, "Exactly. I changed too. That's what you're upset about." He didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. The next morning, I woke up to 3 messages from mutual friends, all variations of, "Hey, is everything okay with you and Ethan?" One was more direct. "Ethan said he found something weird and thinks you might be seeing someone." I felt my stomach drop. He had not just accused me. He had started telling people, not asking, not calming down, not checking himself, telling people. I confronted him in the kitchen. I said, "You told our friends you think I'm cheating?" He said, "I didn't say it like that." I showed him the message. He said, "I said I was worried." I said, "You turned packaging from my business into a rumor about me." He said, "If there's nothing going on, why do you care what people think?" That sentence did it, because it wasn't about proof. It was about punishment. He wanted space when it benefited him. He wanted suspicion when I stopped being available on command. He wanted sympathy before he wanted the truth. I told him, "You don't get to push me away and then accuse me of leaving." He said, "That's dramatic." I said, "No, dramatic is telling people I cheated because you found candle packaging in a bin." He said, "You're twisting this." I said, "No, you're embarrassed because I can explain the wrapper, but you can't explain why you wanted people to think the worst of me." That was the first time he had no answer. Update 1. I messaged the friends who contacted me. I kept it simple. Ethan found packaging from my business, assumed something else, and started talking before asking enough questions. I'm not cheating. Most of them believed me immediately. One said, "That sounded weird from the start." That helped and hurt at the same time, because apparently even other people could see it was irrational, but my own husband chose not to. Update 2. Ethan apologized. Kind of. He said he was scared because I seemed distant. He said he didn't know how to handle me going out more. He said he felt like I was building a life without him. I said, "I started building a life because you told me you wanted yours without me in it." He said that wasn't fair. Maybe it wasn't, but it was honest. Update 3. We are not okay. I don't know if we are headed for divorce. I don't know if counseling will help. I don't know if this is one ugly chapter or the point where I finally stop pretending. But I know this. I am not going to shrink my life again just to make him feel chosen. I am not going to defend my loyalty to someone who made my reputation easier to risk than his own comfort. He wanted weekends alone, so I learned how to be alone too. Now he hates that I'm not waiting at the door, and maybe that tells me more than any apology ever could.